Aloha, I'm Jesse Steffen. Welcome to Pacific Clues. Pacific Clues takes you through the Pacific with different archaeologists. We look at archaeological sites and clues found on various islands. How do these clues help us to unlock the mysteries of the early inhabitants and cultures of these Pacific islands? Today we'll take a closer look at the island of Rapa Nui in eastern Polynesia. Rapa Nui has captivated the fascination of archaeologists and tourists alike since the first Europeans encountered it in 1722. People come from around the world to study and view the island's large stone statues. Many who visit Rapa Nui speak about the mana, or power, these statues contain. Indeed, the moai are sacred to the people of Rapa Nui, and for some who study the moai, the statues have become sacred to them as well. While many moai stand upright and are to be found at temple or ahu sites along the coastline in the interior of Rapa Nui, there are other moai which are scattered across the landscape. Why? Where are the clues that might tell the story of why these moai were seemingly dropped in the middle of nowhere? Were they abandoned, or might they have all been intentionally placed? Archaeologist Shepardson from the University of Hawaii has been studying the placement of moai throughout Rapa Nui. He has collected evidence using the clues left behind to try and unravel the mystery of the location of where we find moai today. What does their placement signify?
In 1722, Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen was sailing around the Pacific and ran into Rapa Nui on Easter Sunday. He decided then, of course, to name the island after the day he found it. My main interest is in Easter Island. I've been studying the statues there, called moai, for the last 5 years almost. Moai are the stone statues on Easter Island. They're carved from volcanic rock in the form of humans from about the waist up. To archaeologists like myself, they're a way to learn about this ancient culture, and still to other people around the world, they're a major tourist attraction. So it really depends who you ask. Well, I think for a long time, the fact that these statues are just kind of scattered about the island, people have talked about them as being abandoned in transport. There are about 90, maybe even more statues that are scattered throughout the inland area of the island. And in the past, people have really explained these by suggesting they were abandoned in transport. They were on their way to these ahu, but for one reason or another, transport stopped and the statues were left exactly in a spot almost like a ghost town. And this all sort of adds to the popular picture that at some point there was some horrible catastrophe, something so awful on the island happened that everyone just had to abandon the statues exactly where they were. Construction, transport all stopped, and supposedly rampant warfare took over. Recent studies, recent research have suggested that many of these inland statues line up quite nicely with territorial boundaries on the island, territorial boundaries that may have existed hundreds of years ago. I think now that we're seeing there may be other explanations for where the statues are now on the island, it makes us question whether this catastrophe, this collapse on the island really took place in the way that people have suggested. The possibility that these statues were placed or left deliberately on purpose to mark locations for territorial boundaries on the island gives a very different scenario of the lifestyle there and what was going on the island. It may not have been collapse at all, but a territorial system that was alive and well. Most of my research has just been with a GPS unit, a global positioning system unit, which is about the size of a cell phone. It's just a handheld unit. And as I hike around the island looking for statues, when I arrive at a statue, I will take a point with this global positioning system unit, And it's really receiving a signal from satellites that are buzzing around the Earth. And this will give me a point within 5 or 6 meters accuracy of that statue's location on the island. So I'll go out and track anywhere from 10 to 50 statues in a day, come home and plug that GPS unit into my computer, and almost instantaneously I have a map of all the statue locations for that day. I've been working specifically with maps drawn by a British woman named Catherine Rutledge. She was doing research on the island back in 1914 to 1915. I did some of the most amazing first-hand research anybody's ever done on the island. At the time she was there, she did draw a map of territorial boundaries on the island. I've been using her maps of these territories, of course updated to make them more accurate for our technology and computers, but comparing statue locations to the territorial boundaries that she drew. For the last 4 or 5 years there, I've made it a point in my research to include high school students from Rapa Nui. Since that time, the program I've been working with in conjunction with the museum there on the island has become a formal program, and every year local high school students that enroll in the program get to go out in the field with me or other archaeologists to learn about the research that people from all over the world come to their island to do. And so it's important to me every time I go down there to really be part of that program, to make sure that the research isn't just for me or just for University of Hawaii, but it's for the island as well. And I like to think that I take into consideration the things that they would like to know about and include them in the research. The fact that this prehistoric culture survived for 600, 800, maybe even 1,000 years prior to European contact is really a measure of their success on the island and coping with these conditions that are not exactly ideal. And I think their creativity and determination in coping with the environment there really offers us a lot to learn. It's definitely an overwhelming experience to work with the statues, and having spent a lot of time with the community on Rapa Nui, I get a strong sense of how important these statues are to the people there, and as such they become very important to me, very special to me.
Do you think archaeologist Brett Shepardson has begun to solve the mystery of the placement of the moai on Rapa Nui and what that placement means? From the evidence he has collected and the questions he continues to ask, he is certainly on his way. I want to mention how important it is for archaeologists to work in collaboration with local communities, like Brett is doing on Rapa Nui. Just as archaeology is nearly everywhere, everyone can be involved in learning the history and culture of where they live and beyond. Remember, knowing the history of your corner of the world can be fun and may really help you and your community make decisions in and about the future, whether or not you choose to become an archaeologist. I'm Jesse Steffen from Pacific Clues. Until next time, continue to look for clues to help explain the mysteries of the world which surrounds you.